Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
From the movie or play, Jack, you get your gun. Anything you can do, of course, I can do better. So, folks, we're here for the Sports Debate Show. We'll be talking about a bunch of topics today. Well, at least four. We'll try and get in maybe five. I want to start off with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Kansas City has a chance to three-peat this Sunday. And if they do, are they the greatest NFL franchise in the history of the NFL? Start with you, James. Go ahead.
Well, being a three-peat, people talk about three-peat as if this is like the first time this has ever happened. It really isn't. It really isn't the first time it hasn't happened. There's a team out there that's done it twice. Green Bay, they did it from 29 to 31, and they did it from 1965 to 67. The latter with the great Vince Lombardi being the head coach. And look, numbers are always going to put you up there. And I think total, you got to look at the totality of the number of titles. If they win this one, they'll have 7 championships, including 3 from the AFL championship. But Green Bay has 13 total. I like the aspect of them being one of the greatest in my era. I get to see a team dominate. I like seeing dominance. It's great for football, I think. But I think you can consider them one of the greatest, but not the greatest. I would look at Green Bay if we're asking the question, if three-peating, would it make them the greatest? No, because there's a team that's already done it twice, and in Green Bay, and you got other teams like Dallas, Pittsburgh that are dynasties that have had great runs in championship. They might not have done it, 3 times, but they've had, two championships. So I'm going to say, in my opinion, that no, they would not make them the greatest. It would make them one of the greatest.
Do you agree with that, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, James could speak for me. He represented me perfectly. I don't have to take the stand. When you go 50 years between winning Super Bowls, you can't be considered the greatest franchise of all time. That's a half century. from when they won Super Bowl 4 until they finally won one under Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. That's like 50 years. So how on earth are you the greatest franchise ever when it took you that long to even get back to another Super Bowl? They weren't even in the Super Bowl for 50 years. So they can't. And also, they're not one of the traditional NFL franchises from going way back, like the Packers, like the Chicago Bears, like the Lions, like the Steelers. They're not one of them. But I will say this, they would be the equivalent of a modern-day dynasty. So you can put them in the discussion with the other teams in all the traditional NFL powerhouses like the Packers, the Steelers, etc. And New England, 2 decades of dominance. 2 decades of dominance when New England went to 9 Super Bowls in a couple of decades. So I don't think you could put Kansas City ahead of them per se, because New England did win 6 Super Bowls, and this is going to be the 4th one for Kansas City if they do win it.
Well, we're just talking about three-peating. I mean, there's a lot of teams that had great records, Cowboys, Steelers, as you all mentioned. Get into the Packers. Don't you got to count the competition? I mean, would you say the Raiders of the 60s are as good as the teams the Kansas City Chiefs have played? Or the Chiefs of this era, would you say that they're better?
I don't think you could compare, because I think the modern players in the NFL are certainly better than the past because they're bigger, they're stronger. And the wide receivers, for example, yet great wide receivers in the past. I understand you could have Lynn Swann making these acrobatic catches, and Lynn Swann would certainly be a wonderful receiver on any team today. But we so routinely see the great players make these unbelievable catches, so they're keeping their feet in bounds. And in the past, they didn't quite specialize in that. Not that they wouldn't have been able to do it, but they didn't do it. Okay? And the players also, like, statistically speaking, weight-wise, height-wise, just a little bigger and stronger. And it's hard to make a comparison.
And also, I'd like to add to that in this league today, it's a lot easier. I would say, even though the talent is there, it's a lot easier because the rules are different. It's more easier to score points now and drive up yards and drive up your stats than you were back then. It was a lot harder because, I mean, guys would knock your block up. They were looking to take your head off. And there were no penalties for that. I mean, it's just, you didn't really get penalized for that. You were revered for that type of thing. And so it was a lot harder, I think, in that aspect. I mean, the talent, like Jack just said, the talent probably is, they're a lot faster, bigger, stronger. But man, football was a lot harder, I would think, because of the rule changes. I mean, or lack of rules that they had back then.
The game they were tougher back then because they were allowed to take the late hits, the extra hit. I mean, but that's how it was in all sports. Like, you think of even Michael Jordan when he came up and he was an absolute superstar. The league didn't protect him. That's why you heard with the Pistons having the Jordan rules. They would hit him hard, knock him on his backside. They wouldn't allow that to happen today.
Well, I mean, I look today and there's a lot more concussions. There's a lot more injuries today than there was back then. I mean, if you look at even the offensive linemen get hurt today, which would hardly ever happen. Well, they played, they were hurt. I agree that they're tough back then, but are they as tough as the players? Are they tougher than the players today? Yeah.
Mac, I'm going to say there weren't a lot more concussions now than there were back then. There's just a lot more communicated about. I think they let you know that they had concussions versus playing through them. They take it more seriously now, and they concealed a lot of that stuff. That's why a lot of those guys came out and were complaining about, that with lawsuits about having concussions, and they're not really talking about it, and they concealed and made them play through them. That's just how it was.
And you'd have these coaches in hot weather they wouldn't allow the players to have water because it would be a sign of weakness. That was the mentality at the time, though. I mean, you didn't actually know any better. And if you questioned something, it would kind of be out of the box. I mean, I questioned things when I was young. Even when I was a kid in school, the teachers would tell us to cough into our hands. And to me, that was completely idiotic at the time. Even when I was a kid, I think your germs are getting into your hands and then you're touching something. But that's what you were trained to do in school.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Interesting. Second topic we got today is, if Nick Siriani, if the Eagles win a Super Bowl, should Nick Siriani be considered the greatest Eagles coach?
I don't think so. It would have been he would have gone to 2 Super Bowls and won 1. Okay, and if you compare him to Andy Reid when he was the Eagle coach, Andy Reid went to 1 Super Bowl. Do you mean to tell me because Nick Sirianni went to 1 additional Super Bowl and they won it, that automatically makes him the greatest Eagle coach of all time? It was just a year ago they were talking about potentially firing him. He was on the hot seat for a while. So I don't want to hear he went from the hot seat to being the greatest Eagle coach of all time. You know, it can't work that way. Okay, well, there was a lot of discontent. I will say this about Nick Sirianni. It seems that the players like him. So all the noise, I think, is coming maybe from the media, the fans, but within the locker room, he's liked by his players. You can make an argument for Nick Sirianni if they win the game tomorrow. I understand that. You had Dick Vermeil, who was an outstanding coach. He went to 1 Super Bowl. They didn't win it, and that's it. I mean, I would put Nick Sirianni ahead of Doug Peterson. How's that? Who won a Super Bowl? You know, who went to 1, won it. But it shouldn't come down to 1 game, guys. What happens if Nick Sirianni loses the game tomorrow? Is there even a serious argument whether he's the greatest Eagle coach of all time? No one will be calling him the greatest Eagle coach of all time if they lose tomorrow. If anything, they're going to blame him for the loss. They'll find something he did and put the blame on him. Okay, so I don't think there can be such a thin line between the best ever and fans calling for you to be fired.
What do you think, James?
Look, right now he's got even though he's got a short body of work, his resume seems to be a little bit better in the short body of work versus the long tenured one with the other coaches. I mean, he's got 48 games, 20 wins, 20 losses, and 1 tie, and he's been to 2 Super Bowls. I think that's a lot quicker than Andy Reid or Dick. I mean, Dick Vermeil, I think he won like 57 games or something like that, so pretty close. And Doug Peterson won about 45 games and lost 37. So his percentage is the highest. His percentage of win is the highest. So and getting to 2 Super Bowls within that short time is pretty impressive. But he's got to win. He's got to win, and I think he'd be up there. But but the total body of work, Andy Reid's been doing. He did it a long time. But what got Andy Reid booted out of Philadelphia was his 1-4 record in the NFC Championship, and it's just unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, so you got to look at if he can, and he's going to 2 Super Bowls, and he wins this one. It kind of puts him up there. I think championships trumps everything. It just looks like, people don't look at your whole body of work and look at everything. They look at what you did last, and so there's a possibility that he may be up there with Andy Reid. Or with we got Doug Peterson, Dick Vermeil. Obviously, he didn't win one, and neither did Andy Reid. So that's what you do. Ultimately, what you do last is what matters for people. I'm not saying that it should trump anything about it. I'm just saying what people will look at and see. Most people are going to look at what you did last for them, and a championship would definitely put him up in the running for being the best coach of the year. The best coach in that organization.
Well, I would think the Eagles will have a good team again next year. I mean, the way they're built right now. Yep. So there's no no reason why they can't make another run next year under this coaching staff. Now, if something happens with the coaches or some the players get traded, I don't know. But to me, as you said, James, it's all about your win and loss when it comes to the big game. If you win a Super Bowl, like Doug Peterson does, he got fired 2 years after, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So you talk about Nick Siriani getting fired. Doug Peterson did too. That owner is a little cuckoo to me. But anyway, to me,
Guys, Mac, greatest and most successful sometimes aren't the same thing. For example, when we talk about the greatest quarterback of all time, you could say that Tom Brady is the most accomplished, most successful quarterback of all time, but he's not necessarily the best, okay? Not the greatest, not necessarily.
Right.
And if Nick Sirianni goes to a third Super Bowl, like you're saying, they have a good enough team, he'd then become the most accomplished Eagle head coach of all time, especially if he wins one, because that would have given him the 3 Super Bowls. The other guys, Vermeil, Reed, would have only had one. And in the past, I think 1960 was the coach, I think Buck Shaw something, who led them to a championship, but that was one. So, but are you really going to tell me now that even if Nick Sirianni goes to 3 Super Bowls, goes to one next year, he's a better coach than Andy Reid?
For the Eagles?
He would have been the most successful Eagle coach of all time. But I wouldn't call him the greatest Eagle coach in the sense that he'd be a better coach than Andy Reid or Dick Vermeil for that matter.
Well, like I said, Jack, I mean, I'm not comparing him as a Kansas City Chief coach. I think he's learned a lot over the years coaching. But if you're just going to talk about the Eagles, and if they win this game, to me, even if they just win this game, he's at the top. If they go to another Super Bowl and win it, there's no more discussion to me as far as Eagles history goes. The Chiefs, yeah, I mean, that's.
I agree. No, I agree. If they go to a third Super Bowl and they win one Super Bowl, then he is. What happens if they go to 3 Super Bowls and they don't win any? Then you can use the argument, look at all the talent on that team. And he couldn't get over the top with all that talent. So why would you necessarily give him the accolade, oh, he's the greatest Eagle coach of all time, throw these compliments? He's got to get over the top, and win a Super Bowl with the talent he has. If
but
not
then you
next year, whenever, at some point.
You would have to give him almost a tie because with Andy Reid, because at the end of the day, Andy Reid had talented teams too, and he still would turn out 1-4 in the NFC Championship. That's a tough thing to swallow, tough pill to swallow. But yeah, he's got 130 wins, 93 losses, a high percentage. So he's like 666 or something like that, some crazy number that he's like a great coach for him. But at the end of the day, they couldn't get the job done at the end when it mattered most.
Let me ask you both something. Do you feel comfortable at this moment saying, oh, I think Nick Sirianni is the greatest coach in Eagle history? Now, he's gone to the Super Bowl. No, I don't think either of you would feel comfortable saying it right now. So, but if they win tomorrow, now it becomes a very serious debate, I think.
Right. Because he's going to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. He's going to 2. He made 2 appearances in 3 years. It's a hard thing to do. I don't think people realize that. I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry, Matt.
And that Chiefs game and that Chiefs Super Bowl, if it wasn't for that fumble, the Eagles may have won that game.
Right.
I mean, that's how close that game was. 3 points. But even if he loses, say he goes to 4 Super Bowls, Jackson, and loses, are you going to say that Marv Levy's not a good coach, a great coach, because he went to 4 Super Bowls and lost?
I'm not questioning you with the question, would he be the greatest coach in Eagle history? I'm not debating whether he's a good coach or not. He's obviously a good coach.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So does Luka lead the Los Angeles Lakers to the NBA championship before LeBron retires or leaves? What do you guys think?
I'm going to say no. I think there's entirely too many defensive teams in the West to stop them from getting there. I mean, we're talking about now Dallas has much more defense with Anthony Davis on the team and with the two defensive centers that they have on the team as well. You're looking at Houston as a great defensive team. I think Houston is going to be tough if they have to play them. And then OKC is just an excellent team. And then even when Anthony Davis and LeBron James were on the same team, they couldn't get past Denver. Denver has their number. And I think they have the same team. They probably would still have their number now. Now, mind you, they've added a kid, Mark Williams, out of Carolina. Excuse me, the Hornets. But the kid can't stay healthy. If he plays, maybe that helps them a little bit defensively. I like his game. I saw it. And he gives them 15 and 10 added to the game. That helps greatly. But I mean, you took away Anthony Davis, and then you have one of the great scorers in Luka. But we're still looking at a situation where a guy where his conditioning is in question. He had a calf injury. And also another guy that only played 22 games this season, and he's been in the league 3 years and hasn't played 70 games in each of those games. So my question is, can they lead them, but can they stay healthy? They probably could get. They have an opportunity to get there. They're number 4 right now, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
You could say that about any team, James. You could say if any team stays healthy or doesn't stay healthy, they're not going there. You're talking about one of the greatest scorers in the last few years, Luka, with one of the greatest NBA basketball players of all time. I think they're an NBA championship contender right now.
I'm sorry. They still got to figure out, because these are two. You put a same player in LeBron James and Luka on the same team, both ball dominant players. Both, they're similar. I mean, it's not so. And Luka is a half court guy. LeBron is a full press. Can Luka do what they did before in fast breaks? And is he going to be that type of guy? I'm not sure. So we'll see. I mean, I love the fact that Luka's on the team. And I think he's going to be great, but I think defensively, he's a liability defensively as well. So, and as well as LeBron at this point in his career, he's going to have to step up defensively, and I don't know if he can do that. We'll see.
What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I kind of relented, Mac, and I sent you the debate question. I see you tweaked that. Who would more likely win an NBA championship, Dallas or the Lakers? But somehow, I know how much you love LeBron James. You had to get him directly into the mix. James, so that's fine. We'll go with your question. But James, you're mentioning, the Lakers couldn't get by Denver. The Lakers won an NBA championship with LeBron and Anthony Davis. They were successful. They won an NBA championship. Now, I know Mac likes to say put an asterisk next to it because it was a shortened season. They went through the playoffs. What does it matter? They got it done in the playoffs the same way had it been a longer season. So, so they proved they could win, but Denver was just better at that point. Denver was really outstanding. But you have certain of these teams like the Denver Nuggets might be a little long in the tooth. The Golden State Warriors, long in the tooth. The Phoenix Suns have never gotten untracked. Houston is a year or two away. OKC is ready now. They're going to be the danger. The Minnesota Timberwolves, bad trade with Karl Anthony Towns, never reached their potential. The LA Clippers, the same old story with Kawhi Leonard, James Harden and all. We're sick of that story. So, and I'm probably missing a team or two, I could talk about. So the Lakers, definitely are in the mix. The only problem is Luka's been the leader wherever he's gone. He's been the leader. He's been the guy. Why was Kyrie Irving such a good citizen at Dallas? Because Luka's personality was such that Kyrie Irving had to stay in line the same way he did at Cleveland when LeBron James was there. Okay? Same way Kyrie Irving had to adjust to Luka, not the other way around. Everyone had to adjust to Luka. Now Luka goes to the Lakers. He's got to adjust to LeBron. Now, LeBron's a team player. LeBron's going to try to bring out the best in Luka, but Luka really is not the man. LeBron's going to try to make him feel like he did, and LeBron had a very good relationship with Anthony Davis, but Anthony Davis kind of knew he was 1A there, and LeBron was 1. And LeBron's still an outstanding player, okay, as well. And Luka doesn't play defense. And Luka's now going to have to change. That's going to be unacceptable if he's not playing defense because he's not the leader of the team. And even as soon as the deal was made, what was the first thing LeBron said? We're all going to have to step up and start playing defense because that's the one area the Lakers are getting hurt badly in. Now, they got this kid like Mark Williams, like you said. But he has a history of being injured on and off and on and off. They may have gotten Mitch Robinson from the Knicks, would have helped as well. And the Lakers in the mix. We would be shocked, if they do win the NBA championship. But everything's going to have to fall into place. And if Luka becomes this tenacious defender, he's not really going to be that. But if he tries to become one, he's going to compromise something on offense. Players are what they are. But, as far as Dallas goes, had we, broached that topic, Kyrie Irving's going to get to do his thing in Dallas. He's going to be a better player. And, so it was a deal that'll help both teams because Luka will help the Laker brand. But whether he brings them another championship with LeBron, if push comes to shove, I'd have to say the answer is going to be no, only for the simple reason there's so many competitive teams there. It's hard to say any one team is going to win it. It's not like last year, guys, where we could say, yeah, we think the Celtics are going to win it because the Celtics seem to be the best team in basketball, but now things are kind of up in the air.
Well, I mean, if I remember correctly, LeBron did try to kind of give the team to Anthony Davis. It's your team now kind of thing. Anthony Davis just didn't want it. I guess. I don't know. I mean, Anthony Davis is what, 31? Am I right? About 31 years old? I mean, he's still a young guy. And to me, him going to Dallas, he gets injured a lot too. So, I mean, we're talking about Matt Williams. How about Anthony Davis? I mean, he's hurt too. Look, I think that I agree with Jack to the point that, listen, LeBron's going to be the leader. I think Luka kind of tries to improve his game defensively. He probably may play a little bit more under the rim a little bit more. But I also think that LeBron and Luka are going to take turns. They're not going to be on the floor at the same time all the time. So you're going to see Luka taking the ball and bringing it up court, and then you're going to see LeBron taking the ball and bringing it up court too at certain times during the game. They're not going to be on the floor at the same time all the time, just sort of like Kyrie and Luka weren't.
I'm just going to give a short-term prediction. The Lakers are going to struggle. The Mavericks are going to initially look like they've gotten the better of the deal with Anthony Davis. If you're asking me this season only, I think the Mavs have a better chance of winning the NBA championship than the Lakers this season.
So you think Anthony Davis is better than Luka?
Anthony Davis at his best, if he was healthy, you can make that argument because that he's a more valuable asset to have than Luka.
As a two-way player.
He plays great defense. Luka's not even in his category playing defense. But Luka's better offensively, but Anthony Davis is no slouch offensively. He's going to score a lot for you. So I can argue, let's say they were both 22 years old and they were both guaranteed to be healthy for their whole career. Yeah, I'll give a tiny edge to Anthony Davis.
All right. Okay. Up next, should people in the press be able to ask anything of players at a press conference, no matter how stupid? What do you think?
I've changed my mind, guys, on this. I've changed my mind. That's a great question that came up, and it got me to thinking. I'm at a point, yeah, why not? Why not? And I'm going to tell you why. I was always against these idiots coming and asking these stupid questions. You allow, as leagues, these players to trash talk one another. One player has the ball. The other one guy could be talking about his mother. He could be talking about his family. He could be saying the most outrageous things, okay? And you allow the players to trash talk. So the fans should be able to say whatever the heck they want. Let the media ask any question they want, as long as it's put in a question form. Now, I'm being a little sarcastic with the media. I take that back. The fans, I meant. I'm sorry, Mac, I'm altering your question. It's a good question. You could stop me because I'm straying a little off your question. Feel free to stop me because I'm not acting within the bounds. I was thinking of fans more than media, and I'm sorry, again, I'm going off your question. Fans are kicked out of the arena if they yell certain things at players. But if players can say it to other players during the course of the game, okay? Now, what's the difference if James and myself are guarding one another in basketball, and I'm saying the most mean things about his family to him to throw him off his game, but a fan yells something to throw him off his game, and the home team, now the fan is escorted out. I don't get it. Put a stop to the trash talking with the players, and then it's fair game with the fans. But with the media, let me get back to your thing to be more direct after. If you say, you got to be professional, and how do some of these guys get media passes? You know who you have to hold responsible? Their media outlet. The media outlet. You had I think it was Coach Schwartz of the Lions years ago. His son-in-law was on his staff as one of the assistant coaches. And the team was doing poorly. And one of the reporters asked him, do you now have any regrets about your daughter marrying your son-in-law with how bad the team was doing? What kind of idiot, and the reporter wasn't trying to be funny.
Yeah.
He said the guy is an idiot in the media there. And I don't like to see people lose their jobs. But what I would do if I'm the team, you ban that media outlet because of the reporter, because of a complete lack of professionalism, and then let the media outlet deal with their work however.
What do you think, James?
So, Jack, look, what you're saying, I mean, is kind of, I wouldn't say contradicting. I mean, when you said ban them, you're virtually saying that, yes, you shouldn't be saying anything asinine as what you're letting fly out of your mouth. I mean, like, if you're being an idiot, I would say it's a hard question to answer because on one hand, no, I would say no, you shouldn't be asking any dumb questions like that or anything stupid, but you have freedom of press.
There you go.
You have freedom of press. There's just nothing you can do about that. It's just what's there. It's like, oh man, you asked that question? I mean, okay, but I think the question that should be asked is like, can I answer that in the manner that I want to answer? I mean, like, are you that stupid? Why would you even ask me that right now? I mean, okay, I'll give you an answer for it, but you might not like it, and then I'll get fined as a player because I got coaxed into asking some dumb ass question. I'm sorry I said that. I didn't want to curse on your show, but I'm just like,
Right.
that's just stupid. Like, so yes, I would prefer that you can ask those questions, but I know that you have to allow media outlets there. You have to allow them to ask these questions because that's just what it is for all of us in this country where we live. We have the freedom of press.
Okay. No, I don't go for that asking anything. Them players can give one-word answers. They could go like this. They could keep it short, way Bill Belichick does. Very
Yeah,
short to the point. Give them nothing at all.
like
You think
Marshawn
it's
Lattimore says,
okay, a
I'm only here
reporter.
because I'm going to get fined.
You say it's okay, a reporter asks the coach, do you have any regrets your daughter marrying your son-in-law because the team is losing? That's freedom of the press to you.
It is. You can't get around that. I'm not saying that it's not a stupid question. It's a very stupid question. But a person has the right to be stupid. I mean, that's just what it is in this country. You got to allow it. It's just, I mean, I'm not saying it's not a dumb question. That's stupid. I mean, no tact, no thought in the question, nothing at all. It's dumb.
But he shouldn't
that
be
person has the
allowed to
right
keep
ask that
coming
question.
back. He shouldn't get a media pass and be allowed to come back. Okay, the next week he comes back and he could say to the head coach, you see with all these beautiful cheerleaders, do you have any regrets, marrying your wife when you see them?
It's the right to do it. I mean, doesn't mean it doesn't come without consequence, but it's still the right. You can't get around that. It's just that's just unfortunate, but it's just what it is. Because I wouldn't want anybody infringing on my rights to ask a question, even if it might be stupid or dumb. I mean, it's just you have to allow that. Unfortunately.
Well, you don't have to have an outlet, a media outlet. It's very easy to get a press pass. Any kind of media, which means podcasts, writing blogs, you can get a press pass. It's very simple to do. Why don't the players just have fun with it? I know Patrick Mahomes, during one of the times, he just had fun with it. He didn't let it get to him. That's what the guy wants. The guy wants to get to you. He wants to make a name for himself, right? This guy here, his name, blah, 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 did this to get a name for himself. But just have fun with it. And don't let it bother you. I mean, I wouldn't let an idiot come over here and bother me about any personal questions that he's just making up to infuriate me. I got time for that. So yeah, whatever makes you happy. Well, I'll go along with it. But I think that just because of freedom of press, I agree with James. You can't stop it, Jack. It is what it is. So,
but there's got to be a certain amount of professionalism.
I agree.
Like, let's say we live in a very sensitive environment, and players might not want to say how they feel politically in some way. They might be asked a question, and they can then say, look, can we keep it to football only? Whatever question. And let's say the reporter persists. Shouldn't be, it's about football. It's about the game. It's about the team. You could talk about internal things going on in the locker room and question them. I mean, that's okay. But there's certain boundaries where you can't get, insulting. You have to stay, with the issue at hand. And we know about being professional, what's a valid question, what's not a valid question.
Guys, was Eli Manning snubbed? I've seen the posts, basically from the Giants fans. Was he snubbed not getting the Hall of Fame his first time? Now, let me give you a couple numbers before. Of course, we know he beat the New England Patriots twice in the Super Bowl. He retired as sixth greatest in passing yards, 10th greatest in touchdowns, over 60,000 something yards, double touchdowns, interceptions. So what do you think? Did he get snubbed?
No, and I don't think he's getting in next year because I saw some of the names. Drew Brees is going to be eligible. Drew Brees obviously belongs in ahead of Eli Manning. It's not a toss-up. Drew Brees was the better quarterback.
One Super Bowl.
Okay, so then, okay, I agree with you, Matt. Eli Manning's a better quarterback than Dan Marino. Case closed. Dan Marino never went to a Super Bowl. So Eli Manning's better than Dan Marino, right?
He
won two Super Bowls.
He won more Super Bowls.
Correct the base state. Dan Marino does not belong in the Hall of Fame. I backtrack. You convinced me.
Okay.
Dan Marino's not a Hall of Famer because he wasn't a winner. He did not win a Super Bowl. So Eli
Listen,
Manning absolutely should go.
how
He
do you
won 2
separate,
Super
Jack?
Bowls.
How do you separate the best of the best? How do you separate them?
You watch them, Mac,
I
over their
mean, you
career.
got the personal stats, and they're close. How do you separate them? You separate them about how many Super Bowls they won, right?
No, the naked eye. We've watched these guys over the years. It's obvious Drew Brees was a better quarterback than Eli Manning. I mean, it's not that close. I mean, you have different levels. You have the Brady's, the Mannings, and then you have the next level, the Favres, the Brees, and then you have the next level, the Mannings, the Rivers. It's kind of levels here. Manning belongs in some point in the next few years, but next year you got Jason Witten eligible too. I would think he would be a little more worthy than Eli Manning. Different positions, but it's he didn't get snubbed. He'll get in. His day will come. If 5 years have gone by and he hasn't gotten in, then it becomes more of an issue. But he's going to get, he's going to get in. Philip Rivers gets in ahead of Eli Manning. Now you could compare. Now Philip Rivers is maybe a slightly better quarterback than Eli Manning, but Eli Manning does have the 2 Super Bowls, so you can say, yeah, Eli Manning would be snubbed if Philip Rivers got in ahead of him. I'll agree. Then it becomes an issue.
James, you're a New Orleans Saints fan. You remember the game between Eli Manning and
Drew Brees.
yes. How good a game was that? How
It was
close
a great game. Yeah, that great. I know what you're talking about. That game when they scored like 50 plus points each or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. That was a great game. It came down to who had the ball last.
Exactly.
Look, there's the element of human nature in when it comes to voting for who gets in the Hall of Fame. And I think that when you look at the situation where when you look at a player and you look at his numbers, you can all automatically say who belongs in the Hall of Fame. T.O. got snubbed. If we're talking about somebody that got snubbed, Terrell Owens is a player that got snubbed because they didn't like him. He didn't get along with the media. But top 3 all time should not omit you from being first ballot. You should be definitely Hall of Fame. Eli Manning, when I look at him, he's had great moments. When the playoff kicked those 2 championships, and he did it against the best team of that generation of that decade, and he had those moments where they were clutch. They were clutch moments, and they won Super Bowls with him. So should that get him into the Hall of Fame? Yes, it should get him in the Hall of Fame, but should it get him first ballot? I mean, he led the league in interceptions 3 times. He's 500 with his record. He's had some dud moments too, and he played a long time. I just think that if you have to look at a guy and question whether or not he should be first ballot, he's probably not first ballot. But is he a Hall of Famer? Yes, I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's going to get in. I just don't think he gets in the first time around. I'm not mad. If he got in the first time around, I wouldn't be mad at it either because of what he did. But the fact that he didn't get it, I'm not mad either way because I can see why he didn't get it.
I agree with that sentiment, but you can't have it both ways. You can't look at certain players, and I'm not talking about Eli Manning now. I'm talking in general, who you point to their leadership is a reason you're going to vote for them. Oh, wow, they were great leaders, not just what they gave on the field, but what they meant in the locker room. Like you talk about a Harry Carson, what he meant in the locker room in certain ways meant just as much as what he put out on the field. And then you mentioned Terrell Owens. He was the most MVD, most valuable distraction. He was terrible. He was poison in the locker room, pure poison the way he split teams up. And that has to be taken into consideration. Yeah, he was a great receiver, how he would perform a lot of times on the field. Constant distraction. constant. The guy was bad news.
But his contemporaries even agree that he should be first ballot. I mean, his peers, guys that are and Hall of Fame guys, believe that he should have been first ballot. So I mean, it's hard to argue that. I agree. I agree with you that he did divide locker rooms, but that has nothing to do with what you put on the field, the product you put on the field.
That's got a
and
lot to do with it.
No.
So that nothing matters in the locker room positively either.
This is a guy that broke his leg and came back and played and gave them 9 catches and 122 yards in an effort to try to win against the Super Bowl. They got to without it.
He didn't have a broken leg. He had some type of pull or something. If he had a broken leg, he wouldn't have been able to see the field.
I'm sorry. It was something that was the matter.
Yeah, it wasn't a broken leg. And it was touch and go. Yeah, and then he, of course, he threw his quarterback Donovan McNabb under the bus like he'd done different times with different quarterbacks.
San Francisco.
Even Stephen Jones with the Cowboys, they finally had to move on from Terrell Owens. They didn't want to do it. And Stephen Jones said, don't blame him. He can't help himself, Terrell Owens, because he would divide every locker room. I mean, he was a great receiver, but a pain in the butt to have on.
Are there not guys that are in the Hall of Fame that were pains in the butts?
Not like him. I know
it doesn't matter.
A lot of eye guys, but he was the ultimate eye guy of all of them.
But he's still an ultimate receiver that should have been first ballot. I have to respectfully disagree with that. Yeah,
I heard the same thing in baseball with Richie Allen, and Richie Allen was a complete distraction. I mean, there's no one in the NFL today who matches up to what Terrell Owens was as being a distraction. And you could point to Tyreek Hill, and I'll tell you this latest episode with Tyreek Hill is basically nothing compared to the Terrell Owens drama, because the Terrell Owens drama was ongoing, it seemed like, his whole career.
You know,
James, okay, hold on. I'm sorry, go one more thing. So with T.O., this is a guy that's never done anything off the field that has got, embarrassed his team. I mean, he's done things in the locker room that might have, but he's never done anything off the field that's embarrassing team that got sent to jail or done drugs.
I'm not talking about that.
But I mean, those are things. These are guys in the Hall of Fame that have those type of things.
But I'm not talking about off the field stuff.
But those things come out in the media and embarrass the league.
I'm not embarrassing the team. I'm talking about directly affects the team on the field, and he directly affected the team. It was poison with the Philadelphia Eagles to have him there.
There's 3 sides to every story.
I remember
side, there's another guy's side, and there's the truth. I've heard locker room be divided on who was the problem in Philadelphia. Some guys sided with T.O., some guys sided with Donovan. So I'm not saying that T.O. wasn't the problem, but I mean, he wasn't the only problem there. I've heard T.O. side, and I was like, okay, well, some of that stuff makes sense.
First, James, who's the leader in the huddle and in the offense on the football field?
The quarterback.
Thank you. So when he's almost making McNabb, or he did make McNabb throw up on the football field or call them out because of it, that's directly affecting your team on the field. And not only did he have problems with McNabb in the locker room, he was fighting other players. He fought I forget the linebacker's name. He got in a fight with him. Yeah, he got in a fight with him too. I mean, listen, I don't think Jack is saying T.O. is a bad isn't a great wide receiver. I think we both agree with that. But there's certain times you've got to be able to work with others. You got to be able to be a good teammate. You got to be able to do all this stuff. And that's why I think he's not in the Hall of Fame. It's not with the reporters. I think it's because a lot of the voters, well, maybe it is reporters, a lot of voters have a problem with him.
They did. I mean, that was the big reason. I mean, now he got in the Hall of Fame eventually after three years, but we were discussing the first ballot. That's wild.
T.O. did that. Listen, Terrell Owens got along with the media. I mean, it wasn't like he was confrontational, but people who had to vote knew what he was about and thought the way I did. That's why it took him so long. I mean, obviously he was a great receiver, but it came attached with a number of negative things. But it's all a matter of opinion. You feel he belonged first ballot regardless. I respect that opinion, but I have a different opinion. I think eventually, you have to get around to putting him in the Hall of Fame. But, I'm not enthusiastic about it. And I shouldn't even say eventually you have to get around to numbers-wise, yes. But I also felt he had such a negative impact on his team. It kind of canceled out some of what he did on the field. That's just my opinion.
Saquon Barkley, is he a Hall of Famer? Say he has another 2-3 good years. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Yes, without a doubt. I mean, like you said, another 2-3 good years. He had some good years in with the Giants, and I just think, I mean, obviously he had some duds. I mean, were they his fault? Obviously, he is a good player on some bad teams, unfortunately, and I think you can see now why he was drafted high at second overall with the Giants. When you look at his play, he's on a team that has a good offensive line. Unfortunately, I mean, for the Giants, showing looking hindsight 2020. Yes, this is a great player, and I think if they continue to have this type of success in the next 2 years or so, he's young enough. What is he? 27? I think he's like 27. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't even hit the peak yet as a running back. So, and you see he's stayed healthy as well. So I think, yes, I think he could be considered Hall of Fame worthy. It's harder for backs now. You don't really see guys getting in like that because they're not really utilizing like they used, Barry Sanders, Jerome Bettis, Curtis Martin, Emmitt Smith. But when you see a guy like this, I think, like, say, for instance, a guy like Adrian Peterson is a once-in-a-generational talent. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer as well. I put him in the same breath as an Adrian Peterson. If you can get 2,000 yards, that's not anything to sneeze at, especially if guys try to, put 8 in the box to stop you. It's definitely a Hall of Fame worthy effort if he gets 2 or 3 more good years like this.
Well, I think that's the key, Mac. 2 or 3 good more years. He has 7 years in. And if he has a 10-year career, and especially if they win tomorrow, okay, even if he has an average game, everyone knows he would have played a major role in getting the Eagles to the Super Bowl. But let me ask you this. Let's say it's 2 more years and he has okay type years. But let's say they lose the Super Bowl game tomorrow and he doesn't have a Super Bowl win to his credit. Has a couple of more good years and that's it, and basically, is injured after that or whatever. How would he stack up? I'm asking you, Mac, the Tiki Barber over career. And Tiki Barber's not seriously considered as a Hall of Famer. So things could change kind of quickly if they lose tomorrow's game. I don't know what the stats are, but is he a better runner for the Eagles than Tiki Barber was for the Giants? And Tiki Barber did go to 1 Super Bowl. They lost. So what happens if Saquon Barkley loses tomorrow and doesn't go back to another Super Bowl? His career might mirror Tiki Barber's to a large extent. And Tiki Barber's not that close to being in.
No, Tiki Barber in his day, that brief period, was one of the best backs in the league. Him and LaDainian Thomas were about equal for a while there, catching the ball, running the ball, making big runs, breaking big. I mean, if you think Barkley breaks some big runs, take a look at some of the YouTube video of Tiki Barber breaking runs. And once he got that fumble taken care of, the fumbleitis he had, he became a great back for a short period of time. I know we like to talk about prime or short period of time. Tiki Barber was 1-2 in the league, and better than Barkley with the Giants anyway. So
let me put it another way here. Now we were having a debate with Terrell Owens a little while ago. Tiki Barber didn't have the best reputation in the locker room. Didn't get along with Tom Coughlin. A lot of players didn't like him. But everyone loved Saquon Barkley. Had Tiki Barber been like Saquon Barkley, loved by his coaches, by the other players, considered a leader in the locker room, his Hall of Fame case, would it have been a lot better?
Yeah. I mean,
If I had to argue, yes, if I had to argue what they're saying, what we were saying about T.O., then yeah, if it off those credentials, yes, I would say it would be a lot better for sure.
I mean, Tiki might, if he stayed around, might have went to the Super Bowl and won it.
Exactly.
One more year.
Yeah.
One more year.
What guys are thinking, like Jason Kelsey even. Jason Kelsey, thankfully for him, he was on the Eagle team that won a Super Bowl before. So he'll always have the distinction. He'll be a Super Bowl champ. But he has to be thinking, I would have stayed around for one more year to go to the Super Bowl. You kind of wonder with Jason Kelsey, he's in the spot. Who do you root for? Do you root for the Eagles or your brother Travis? Jason Kelsey's wife already says she's rooting for the Eagles straight out. You know, they live, in the Philly area and all, and he played 13 years, her husband, for the Eagles. So, but what a dilemma you have.
Who had that jacket, guys? You remember there was a jacket where they had two separate teams on it? One side was like the Chiefs, the other side was like the 49 or something like that. I forgot what the two teams were. But the parent of that player had two different teams on the same jacket. So that's how he rooted. So that's pretty interesting.
Well, their mother, when they played against one another, I guess she was neutral. But if one of the sons never won a Super Bowl and the other did, she'd probably root for the one that didn't win a Super Bowl. There was a case in hockey where the two brothers were on opposite teams and they won the Stanley Cup Finals. And the mother said point blank which son she was rooting for because his team had never won the Stanley Cup. And the other one, her other son had been on a couple of Stanley Cup winners. So that's kind of understandable.
Well, folks, we're closing the top of the hour right now. Tomorrow, don't forget the big football show, 8 a.m. Sunday morning. And, of course, NFL Download. We'll be doing part of the Super Bowl live, a watch-along. So that should be fun. You guys watch the Super Bowl with us. Make some comments as we'll be talking about it. Have a great day today, folks. It's Saturday night. Stay out of trouble. Big snowstorm here in the east. We're expecting that tonight. So, almost 8 inches of snow. So anyway, have a good one, folks. We'll see you tomorrow on the Big Football Show.